All right, all right, all right. Hey, Colin, what did the Ramones say?
The Ramones said, "Hey ho, let's go."
Hello, our legendary friends. We are so glad that you have decided to join us for another episode of Legends and Losers.
I like doing that with you.
I don't know how that sounds a stereo in
Probably
people's
sounds
ear.
awesome, I bet.
Yeah. Well, let's just go with that. It sounds awesome. Speaking of awesome, we have an incredible guest today, don't we?
We have the most awesome guest.
So some of you have heard us talk in the past about small E entrepreneurs and big E entrepreneurs. Small E entrepreneur starts off like someone like myself or Colin, where you sort of hang out a shingle with a hope and a prayer and not much else, and you go for it. And a big E entrepreneur is somebody who's got some kind of an interesting background, does something cool, maybe writes a legendary algorithm or carbidingulator. And I saw this guy driving the most awesome carbidingulator the other day. It made me want one. If you say it fast enough, you might actually be able to get people to think it's like a thing.
It's a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it sounds very you sort of pull it off Back to the Future, right?
Yeah, it's kind of like that. Anyway,
the flux capacitor.
Flux capacitor. That's what it was. Very, very good. And then the other one I like is deconfibrillator. Yeah, I have a patent on the deconfibrillator.
Oh, you do, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
so
you're gonna be rich.
I'm gonna be committed to an insane asylum. So Biggie and Smalley, right? So Smalley, lawnmower business. I don't think they can hold you very long though in California.
Well,
I think you have.
How long have they been holding you? Did you see Shutter Island?
I don't know what that is.
It's a very interesting movie. Leonardo, you should see it.
Oh, Leonardo's just one guy now. He's like Cher. Leonardo doesn't need a last name.
Not really.
Okay, so small E entrepreneur, lawnmower dude, and then there's the big E entrepreneur who writes a carbidingulator, goes to Sand Hill Road in Silicon Valley, and raises $1 zillion in his hopes to build a category king, a big category king.
1 zillion.
And today we have a very serious big E entrepreneur, don't we?
We have a very serious big E entrepreneur today.
Tell our legendary friends his name.
His name is Eric Yuan. That's what his name is.
And we'll do the formal introduction in a sec, but just so you know, Eric is the founder of Zoom, and they're growing at somewhere between 200% and 300%, aren't they, Colin?
Annually. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Because with a company like this, it could be month over month because they're on fire.
Yeah, they are on fire, and we shoot Legends and Losers on Zoom, don't we?
Yes, we do. We are very happy. Keyword of the day.
Yeah.
Happy users of
that
Zoom.
Is the theme of the day, isn't it? Happy.
It's the theme of. It's more than the theme of the day. It's the theme of the product. Yeah, and the theme of the company.
It seems like the theme of Eric's life, and it's cool. About 10 years ago, I said to myself, "Hey, self, why don't we?"
If I was smart and I was me.
If I was smart and I was myself, wouldn't we get a black belt in happiness? And so I've done a lot of research into happiness and a lot of
you have
reading and the data science and happiness. And so happiness is an important topic for me. Your friend Rocco. You want to talk a little bit about Rocco?
Rocco Bellick is the producer of a movie called Happy, which if you haven't seen is Chris. It's your favorite movie, right? One of your favorites.
Oh, absolutely. It is based on actual, legit, in the parlance of our time, research into what makes people happy. So it's not just horse shit about say these 3 affirmations and and lift your left leg up and do the hokey pokey and life will be good, And it's a fascinating film. And I highly recommend open a nice bottle of wine or a scotch or whatever it is you like with somebody you love and really get into it.
Yeah.
And so happiness, big theme for Eric, and he's an extraordinary entrepreneur. He is the CEO of one of literally the fastest growing companies in Silicon Valley, funded by some of the elite. And he takes us inside the company. And I really think that when this dialogue with Eric starts zigzagging around Silicon Valley, or would it slither around?
No,
it would move faster than that.
Well,
what's the right? I think it's going to ricochet. Is it going to ricochet?
It's going to explode.
It's going to explode. Is it going to rock and roll around the valley?
Yeah.
I think it's going to be an eye opener. It was a huge eye opener for me. I mean, a huge eye opener for me. So he talks a lot about happiness. So we thought we'd share a few little things about happiness. So there's a story by Laura Vanderkam or Cam in Fortune with the headline, quote, "Research shows you need these 5 things to be happy at work." What are the 5 things we need to be happy at work, Colin?
Well, scotch.
Tequila.
Work that challenges you, a sense of progress, no fear, autonomy, and a sense of belonging.
Yeah, so they aggregated a bunch of stuff, and that was the list they put together. I thought it was interesting. I thought it was a good list. Yeah, and I thought it was interesting.
It's a great list.
It's a great list.
It's a great list.
Autonomy and belonging is kind of interesting, right? We want to feel like we're free to use our best judgment, but at the same time, we want to be connected back to the mothership.
I think I like that belonging is the last one because it sort of brings it all back.
Yeah, well, you're you're sensitive.
Yes.
You're that kind of a guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm a kumbaya kind of guy.
Yeah, exactly. You're the nice one. So Fast Company says that employees that are happy are 12% more productive. And it says, quote, "New research suggests we work more effectively, creatively, and collaboratively when we're happy at work." Now, here's what I want to know. And I'm not taking anything away from these folks at Fast Company doing this research. I think it's good. But do we really need fucking research to tell us that? Like, shouldn't that be obvious?
Yes, but statistics are interesting. 12% is rather remarkable.
No, I guess I believe that, but I just like, no shit, people are more creative and effective and collaborative when they're happy. I mean, how collaborative do you feel when you're pissed off? I'll show you collaboration.
Sort of anti-collaboration.
Yeah. And then here there's another Fortune article written by, I love this name, Chauncey. Chauncey, would you say his name Alcorn?
Yes.
That's a great name.
It is. Chauncey.
We need more people named Chauncey.
It's very regal.
It's very, do you call it like in, isn't it Being There with Peter Sellers?
Yeah.
Yeah. Isn't his name Chauncey?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think they shorten it to Chaunce the gardener, right? Because he says, "I'm Chauncey the gardener," and they call him Chaunce. No, I think he says he's Chance the gardener, and then they call him Chauncey Gardner. Yeah. That's it. No, that's what happens in the movie. It's an incredible movie. Anyway, it's got nothing to do with anything. But according to Chauncey in this article in Fortune, Americans are happier at work than they ever have been for years. And the conference board just issued some research. This is from June of last year or July of last year. So, 9 months ago, whatever. The conference board released the results of their latest employment satisfaction survey, revealing that nearly 50% of U.S. employees are satisfied with their current job at an 11-year high, Colin.
Well, I don't know what to say about that, except that we have a lot of happiness on the way.
Well, yeah, that's good news, right? And hopefully it keeps going. So why don't you introduce our legendary friends? She's gotta get a new tongue. Introduce our legendary friends to Eric.
So Eric Yuan. Eric is the founder and CEO of Zoom. And prior to founding Zoom, he was a corporate vice president of engineering at Cisco, where he was responsible for their collaboration software development. As one of the founding engineers and vice president of engineering at Webex, Eric was at the heart and soul of Webex products from 1997 to 2011. Eric proudly grew the Webex team from 10 engineers to more than 800 worldwide and contributed to revenue growth from 0 to more than $800 million. He's a named inventor on 11 issued and 20 pending patents, and he's a graduate of the Stanford University Executive Program. And now I'm very pleased to introduce our new friend and happiness master, Eric Yuan.
So, Eric, what does it feel like to be the founder and CEO of literally one of the fastest enterprise technology companies in Silicon Valley?
I think, I live in Silicon Valley. I always call Silicon Valley as a startup valley. It's very exciting to be a founder and a CEO of any startup companies here. I think it's very exciting. You feel like you're part of something, you're part of the Silicon Valley ecosystem. And every day I feel very excited. I just do not want to sleep. I really want to come to the office to work. It's every day full of excitement.
Now, I love it. So how much of that is just Silicon Valley, and how much of that is the fact that I think I read in Forbes, you correct me if I'm wrong, are you guys growing at 300% a year? Is that really what's going on here?
That's that's 2016 to 2015. I think between 200 and 300%. Yeah, because we are working harder, than any of our competitors. So,
and your product shows.
Yeah, the product is getting better and better every day because we do listen to our customers' feedback.
That's not a best practice, Eric. I mean, come on.
It is. You got to listen to a customer feedback. However, in terms of a when and how to execute on that, right? This is your core, right? So, yeah.
And how are you scaling given let's say 200 to 300% growth? 200, 300, whatever.
So you're right on. To scale the business is always tricky. Every business is different. The way we look at this is make sure we always care about our existing customers. Don't always think about to scale up your business to get as many new customers as possible. I think that's a wrong way to look at the scaling your business. We always look at how we can scale our business to spend more time to care about our existing customers. If we focus on that rather than just to get more new customers, I think we are fine. So everything we are doing here in terms of product innovation, the process, the team member we are going to hire, always think about make sure our existing customer happy. That's why I say even if we all grow the business, see we're more than 500 employees now, very soon be 600 employees. For now, actually, we are okay. We did not see any scalability issues.
I didn't necessarily mean in the product, although that's a cool answer. I should have anticipated that given you're an engineer's engineer. What about from the business side? I mean, how is it to hire? I mean, Silicon Valley is on fire. We don't have to tell anybody that. And it's maybe the most competitive hiring environment in the world, certainly one of them. And so if you're about 6 years old, is that right, Eric?
Yes, it will be 6 years old very soon by early August. You're right.
You have about 600 people. So how are you just getting butts in seats? Never mind great butts in seats.
To hire top talents, no matter the engineer team or beef up your sales team, is always not an easy job. The one thing we did a little bit differently is we always promote the internal referral. So meaning over 50, I think last quarter, over 60% of the newly hired employees are from internal referral. And I think that's probably, that's the one thing I learned. Right? If you leverage your full-time recruiter or recruit employees, no matter how good you think your recruiting practice is, you always take a huge risk. 50% right, 50% wrong. However, if you have very happy employees, they search for their network, look at it, which one, I know can help us grow. They refer them, to our, the team, and then later on can join, also can maintain the culture. That's one thing I think even if we grow and hire a lot of people, by and large, we still maintain the company culture.
Well, that certainly says a lot about your company culture. You must have a great company.
I don't think that's a great company. We just work so hard every day, try to improve. And overall, the one thing I learned is we got to enjoy this startup process, right? Because startup is always a long journey. But how to enjoy the startup processes is make sure our employees happy every day. If our employees happy every day, they can deliver happiness to our customers as well. If our customer happy, guess what? The company is happy, right? It's kind of a positive loop. Yeah.
So wait a minute. I want to understand what's going on here, Eric. You're the chief executive of one of the fastest growing enterprise technology companies in the world, and you think a big part of your success is happiness, the happiness of your employees and your customers?
Exactly. That's just the one magical word, happiness. That's really important.
So what do you do to keep everybody happy?
We do everything. Say like, I do not think there's any single thing. You just get that done right, employee happy. That's not the case. But however, overall, this boils down to our company's value. Our company value, just one word, care. I really want to make sure every employee, they understand that. They got to care about the community where they live. They got to care about the customers, company, their teammates, themselves. And every day, our employees feel like our company does care about them. Their teammates also care.
Are you saying, Eric, that there's never been a time where one of your employees beat the shit out of a paying customer for no apparent reason?
It happens, but however, we got to make sure the intention is to care about our employees, customers, and also it's not that easy. But that's why I want to make sure every employee, when they wake up every morning, they think about, I got to deliver happiness to my teammates. I got to deliver happiness to our customers. If you make others happy, you will be happy. If they all understand that, that's easy.
Do you have a chief happiness officer?
I think, are you the chief happiness officer?
I'm not, but we do have a chief happiness officer. Her name is Hesser, and by the way, she's a full-time, sales account executive. This is more like her. She volunteered to be our chief happiness officer.
So she's a salesperson. Is that right?
That's right.
And she raised her hand, and so she said she wanted to do this. So in her role as chief happiness officer, what does she do?
She's doing so many things, like coordinating with other, remote office. Every remote office also we have a happiness crew, right? They talk about, hey, every Friday we got to have a theme. Right? This Friday theme, maybe the sports theme. Right? Everybody wear all kinds of, say like the sports T-shirt or something. And, kind of come up with some crazy ideas to make sure employee happy, right? So and this is their job, right? But however, this is not full time. It's called really wanting to help the business to deliver happiness to each other, right? That's why I see the very creative idea coming from that team.
And Eric, what's your definition of happiness?
If you make others happy, you'll be happy. That's my definition of happiness.
That's a great answer.
Hey, Eric.
It's so true.
Are you a motivational speaker in your spare time?
I'm not sure. I do not know. So
are you Deepak Chopra's long lost brother or something? Maybe Tony Robbins. I don't know. That's incredible. And describe what a day for the typical. If I was working at Zoom and maybe I was a salesperson or an engineer, how is the sort of focus on happiness different? So maybe paint a picture for Colin and I, what a happiness day might look like at Zoom.
Yeah. So, first of all, when you wake up, right, you got to say, hey, do you feel excited to come to office or not, right? If you do not feel excited, I would say stay at home. That's okay. Figure out what happened. Right, because it could be like you have some family issue, something like that. That's okay. Stay at home. If you feel like, oh, I'm ready. I really want to go to office, and I like talking with our customers. I really like our teammates. Okay, come to office. When you come to office, everybody smile, right? And also you look at a calendar. You have several meetings, and make sure when you interact with the customers or talk with your teammates, always think about how you can do more to care about others. Really think about one word, care, right? And as long as everybody do that, you feel like, wow, this is great. See, like one day, so once like last November, I played soccer. However, I did not stretch myself. Well, my Achilles tendon was ruptured, right? And I came in the office, one of my teammates, he saw that, the following day, he lended something to me, right? And I never thought about that, right? It's really helping me a lot, right? It's kind of, I never asked for that. But they think about it by themselves, how to care about other teammates. I said, if you really think about caring about others, for sure everybody will feel happy, because you do not feel like, oh, just yourself in the business.
So as you're talking, I'm looking at Colin, and we're sort of amazed by you. And so the question that pops into my mind is, where did this fucking guy come from? So Eric, could you tell us a little bit of your life story, maybe where you were born, and take us back. We want to understand how you got to be who you are today.
Sure. So I was born in China and in Shandong province, and that's why when I speak Mandarin, everybody knew that I came from that province. I have a very heavy accent, and I came to the Silicon Valley in 1997. So prior to that, I was in Beijing, China, and tried to do the small startup company for software, and like Ericsson China, it was one of my customers. However, back to 1996, 1995, I really knew internet is going to change everything. But however, back then, nobody heard about internet in China. And at that time, I was 25, 26. I thought maybe it will take another 10 years, for internet to be, I think, be known by everybody in China. However, here in the Silicon Valley, like Yahoo, AOL, Netscape went public. It's this crazy time. I really wanted to embrace the first wave of internet revolution, right? So that's why I knew one of the co-founders of Webex. That's why I got my H1 working visa and come to the Silicon Valley in 1997.
And so was that, Eric, I hate to interrupt you. I just want to be clear. So was Webex your first Silicon Valley job? Is that right?
That's right. Exactly.
Wow. In 97.
1997, I got my H1 working visa and to join Webex. And when I came here,
our timing is almost identical. I came in from Canada in 96, and I had the same reaction that you did. Did Netscape go public in 94?
I think 1995.
Yeah, and I thought, and I think a lot of us, of course, did, like, holy shit, this changes everything. And so it's interesting. That was a big trigger for me too, a big sign that it was game on. Anyways, please keep sharing.
Yeah, so that's why I came here. I settled down here because I feel like this is the worldwide innovation center and for internet. And however, when I came here, the Webex was very small, only less than 10 engineers with 2 co-founders. I literally even do not speak English. What can I do? I cannot join marketing team, no marketing team. I cannot join a sales team, no product. I had to, go back to write a code. I worked very hard because I run my small startup business in Beijing for a while. I did not write a code for a while, right? That's when I came here. Literally, I probably the one who worked really hard. And Friday night,
did you feel like you were starting over again? Is that what the experience was like?
Exactly. I got to catch up. Other engineers, they keep writing code for many years. I did not write a code for a while. And Friday night, always, quite often, I worked literally the whole night Friday because I was still very young at that time. Saturday, I do not feel sleepy. I still very energetic. That's why I did that for a while.
I think you've probably been very energetic for your whole life, Eric, is what I'd guess.
And happy.
Yes, no. At that time, I do not know happiness. I learned along the way. But because this is a part of a reason, because I managed an engineering team at that time. Webex went public. The one thing I found very interesting, and because Webex went public, you look at the engineer, the code quality, and our company, the stock price. You can feel like there's some, something, the correlation between those two things. If the company stock is up, engineer very happy. You see the quality is good, and that's why I realized, we got to be happy.
Is that one of the most important reasons that you shouldn't buy software from technology companies whose stock is going down because their engineers won't be happy and therefore they'll have shitty code?
for the first series like that, but down the road, the company already.
That's a big insight. You probably gave all of the, Wall Street analysts in the world a really big insight right there.
Mirror the happiness of those employees. Yeah.
So please keep going. So you're at Webex and you're now an engineer again. And do you think being an engineer, having to sort of go back to the beginning, even though you had begun the progression in your career, how do you think that affected you?
I think to be an engineer really help you. Specifically, you live in Silicon Valley, right? You really know what's going on, right? Because most of the innovation coming from here. And if you do not have a great engineer background, you probably do not know what's the next, right? What's the direction, right? What's the next, the big theme, right? Because the engineer background, I really, try to understand what's the next. However, after we sold the company, the Webex to Cisco back to 2007, and I stayed at Cisco for another 4.5 years. I was Cisco's corporate vice president in charge of Cisco's collaboration software development. However, the key reason why I left is I really want to build something customers really enjoy using that. Because we build Webex, however, every time when I talk with Webex customers, guess what? After the meeting was over, I felt very embarrassed because customers are not happy. And, I figured out.
I can tell you, Eric, I mean, as a customer, and I mean no disrespect, but I got to a place where I fucking hated Webex. Like, it was so hard to use, and I'm dyslexic, and I can't read a spreadsheet, and I can barely spell and all that. So I'm not exactly like a good user. So if I can use the technology, Colin says if I can use it, anyone use it. Like, for example, I can't use the Uber app; it's too complex for me. That's kind of where I'm at in life. Okay, and so. I want you to know, I mean, of course you know this, but I want to just validate even more for you. Like, Webex was pissing me off at a level that was just, and so was Skype for that matter. Like, these technologies just felt like they got worse and worse, and the UXs never seemed to really improve. I would get on Skype and not know how to make a fucking phone call. And so if we go back to Webex for a sec, I mean, obviously you were feeling that from customers in the market?
You're absolutely right. That's part of the reasons why I built a Zoom. If you told me that like 2008 or 2009 timeframe, probably I should have left earlier to build the next generation of Webex. However, at Cisco, originally I did not want to leave. I don't want to build next generation over there. However, Cisco was unwilling to change its collaboration strategy because they still can sell Webex a lot. I know that's not a future. Sooner or later, you're going to have a problem. You got to cannibalize your existing service, right, to build something new. But it's hard. I cannot convince others. That's why I decided to leave. Build a Zoom.
And certainly don't share with us anything that's inappropriate. But I was on the board of a kind of a collaboration, what we called social business software, that was kind of built off of more of a Facebook paradigm as opposed to this kind of a communication paradigm. The company was called Jive, and I was on the board for about 15 seconds. Hey, your background just changed there, Eric.
Yeah, he's moving around. He's teleporting. Look at him.
Did Zoom also build a teleporter?
No, it's just that changing my virtual background, because whenever I have a same background, I feel a little bit bored. I do not feel happy. I want to.
It all comes back to that. It's so brilliant. I love it.
And if you're not on YouTube, Eric can change his background with a click of a button, so he can be wherever he wants. And
which is one of the most awesome features of Zoom, I might add.
So while we're on it, what the fuck? Tell us what this feature of Zoom is that allows you to have like this amazing office. And before that, it looked like you were at some super ding dong hotel somewhere. So what's going on here?
So this sort of, backs to like, at least for me, I'm using Zoom probably 5 or 6 times a day, minimum, every day. And one thing, every time I have a same background, and no matter what kind of background, the same background, I feel very bored. Seriously, just to, look at that for several hours, I just feel like, why not come up with something you really like, right? This is one of the key reasons. Another reason we found our sales rep also like it because, every time before our rep talk with the customers, we change the virtual background to customers there, see like a company logo, their building, the campus. You make the meeting experience for the first several minutes very intimate. First question always from customers, oh, where are you? Well, it looks like you are standing in front of our company's the building. So,
That's so great.
yeah.
That's so great.
Oh, that is so fucking awesome. So you see the background behind me, Eric?
Yes,
So
it's very nice.
what you're telling me is if I had paid more attention to the feature set that I'm clearly ignoring in Zoom, I wouldn't have to create this. This is real shit here, and there's no button to press. Like,
Can we press a button for my background?
yeah, maybe we need to get that going for you. I happen to really like mine, so I'm not bored with it. But it is so. I mean, I don't know.
Makes you happy though. Hey,
does.
right?
And it is so ingenious, and it's one of the things I love about Zoom is as a user, it's so very clear that the point of view you used to engineer the product was absolutely what's the customer experience going to be.
Happy.
No, I know
happy?
because I'm a guy who can't use Uber, and I use Zoom all day, every day. As a matter of fact, I use it so much, Eric, that when I go on somebody else's podcast, if they invite me to be a guest on their show, and they like want to do it on Skype, which is often what they want to do it on, it makes me, shall I say, very unhappy. And so I am on a one-man mission, at least for the podcast that I go on, to convert all these other podcasters to Zoom because it contributes to my happiness when they do that.
So,
Thank
Eric,
you.
I should mention that the first time I invited Christopher to a Zoom call before he'd even gotten it set up, he said, "Oh no, what are you making me do now?" And it was, and I knew how easy it was, and I said, "This is good. You're going to be able to do this. Watch." And within what 10 seconds or less, you said, "Oh my God, it's done." That was the easiest thing I've ever done, and he's been a happy guy ever since. Happy guy.
Way happy. And I use it all day, every day. And I put the files in Dropbox and I can do it. And it actually makes me feel like for at least that part of my day that I'm technologically savvy.
Thank you. We'll be working harder to make the experience better and better.
I want to the backgrounds, Eric. Were you responsible, or did you have a significant part in the creation of these backgrounds?
No, I don't. Normally, I see like every weekend, I went to see, surf the internet. I know some places I wanted to go, but I cannot go, too busy. I just, get some background image, right? I can enjoy the following week. Or maybe actually I saw some very good, virtual background from our team members. I would say, hey, please send me a copy. I'd like to enjoy that image as well. So yeah.
Can you put any image in?
Any image.
Oh, so I can put my own images in.
Exactly. Anything.
Oh,
Yeah, down the road, we also can make a background like a video background, right? See, like, you can go, literally just one click, you can go anywhere. So, yeah.
Oh, fuck. See, the problem is if I had this feature going, Eric, I would be doing what you're doing right now, and I'd just be like an absolute, moronic child.
Yeah. This is one of the things, right? Keep our employee happy, right? So a lot of small things together, we will keep our employees happy.
So, Eric, if we could go back a little bit to your own journey for a sec, I'm curious what it was like for you to make the transition from being a developer or coder to being a manager and a leader, and ultimately you grew the engineering team at Webex extraordinarily. Can you take us through a little bit of that?
Sure. So, when I was an engineer, and for sure, I really want to make sure my code is solid, right? Because I really care about my code. Otherwise, if code is very buggy. But anyway, so one of the reasons Webex is not good is I wrote a lot of buggy code. So 1998, the code is still running there. So, but anyway, I learned one thing is you got to really care about the thing you are doing, right? No matter what you are going to write a code or you're going to manage a team. right? If you see, like, if you manage a small team, really care about the engineers, you managed, and think about it from their perspective. And every day you do that, someday you'll be a good manager. Because if you care about them, you understand the problem, and then you try to figure out a solution. And even if your solution is not right, but down the road you can improve. So because of that, I realized to be a good manager, a leader, you really need to think about how to care about others. That's really important. When you start a company, you got to care about the company, investor, everything, right? So every day when I wake up every morning, I think about this word, care. Because of that, I guess probably, spending so many years of time, worked so hard, from engineer manager to the director to VP engineer, and then, to the company CEO. I think it's sort of like, organic growth. But I did learn a lot from all other leaders, because quite often I needed some help. And however, I think is that word care really helped me a lot.
Wow.
Unbelievable. And so you're the head of engineering at Webex. And how old was Webex when you guys went public?
4 years. I think the company started in 1996, but I think, and most of the engineers, came on board. I think the first 10 engineers came on board in 1997. So yeah, after 3.5 years, the company went public.
And so if I remember what you had mentioned earlier, you were about 26, 27 when you moved to Silicon Valley. Is that right?
That's right. I was born in 1970. Yeah.
Yeah, I was in 68. So we're right there together. So I find it fascinating, Eric, that your first kind of big job, and certainly your first job here, you go on to be the head of engineering, and essentially you were there. How many employees you said? About 10 people or 10 engineers?
No, when I joined Webex, I was not the VP engineer. I was one of the engineers.
Yeah, no, I understand. I understand that. But then you rose when you. How many people were at Webex when you joined? How many employees overall?
If I recall correctly, around 10 engineers and plus 2 co-founders. Yeah. That's 1,000 people. Yeah, it's pretty much.
About a dozen folks. I just want to frame it in my head, right? So you joined 12 people, and you end up creating, with all kidding aside and all my ranting and raving about the product, you end up creating, no question, one of the great new products, companies, and whole new categories. You changed the way people communicated, because prior to that, as you well know, communication on the internet was incredibly difficult, despite my rants. And so you became a category king. And so what was that ride like, to take Colin and I on that ride?
I think, try to be the king of any category. That's the best thing. You two are expert on that. So I learned a lot. So
I think you're the expert on that, actually, but keep going.
Yeah. So, however, it's not that easy though, because the timing is really important. Sometimes you try to be, the king of any category. If you are too early, you need to spend a lot of time, right, to educate customers, and it's too late for sure. You cannot be the number one in that category. So always, I think the timing is, still I do not know, how to do that. Is timing is really important. If I started a Zoom this year, I had no chance. Right? If I started Zoom like 10 years ago, I also think there's no chance, because the mobile device is not ready, and the Wi-Fi is not available anywhere, and so a lot of limitations, right? So the timing is really important. So
do you think, I just want to be clear, that to be a successful entrepreneur or be a successful member of an early startup team, so I get the timing thing. A lot of people talk about that, but what I heard you say there, Eric, was not just timing, but paying very close attention to, I don't know, you tell me how you think about it, but what I heard was market dynamics. And it sounds like you're watching those dynamics to look for an opening where you can take new territory. That's what I think I heard you say, but I'm curious how you think about it.
So first of all, the back to timing. Timing is really important. However, I do not think anybody can guess the time right. So the approach, I think the way I look at this is, because time is really important. But how to make sure, you build something in the right time is ideally you start earlier, right? It can be patient. Don't give up and be patient to wait for the time. When you wait for the timing, you got to make sure always closely monitor what's going on in the market and the market dynamics, right? And plus, you need to figure out a way how to survive. Otherwise, before the profit time is coming, your business already kind of did not go anywhere. Probably all shut down your business, right? So the way I look at this is make sure you kind of if I start over, I will start a company as early as possible. And kind of there's so many great timing along the way. So that's probably the best the way to start a company.
And what else did you learn, given that your first time at bat, so to speak, you were able to co-create a category king?
Well, I think it got to be bold, right? So make sure, a lot of people will tell you, oh, you are going to build something that the market is so crowded and so many, issues and so on and so forth. You really got to kind of make up your own mind, right? And make sure even if your close friend, try to convince you, don't do that. But if you think you can build something, you got to listen, to yourself, right? And sometimes, even if a lot of your friends, will convince you that's not a right idea, not the right time, you got to kind of try to say, okay, play it safely, right? You got to take a risk, right? And no risk, no reward, right? So, however, be patient, right? When you take the risk, be patient, work hard. Somebody, you probably will get it there. And if you fail, that's okay. Try again, So that's kind of a thing I learned.
We had a discussion a while ago with Paul Martino from Bullpen Capital, and he considers himself a counter investor. In other words, if everybody says it's zero, he bets one. And so I guess with that sort of in mind, it sounds like you're a little bit counter the common thinking. How do you know when you should trust your gut, your instincts, your spider senses, so to speak, about a market opportunity versus listen to everybody?
I think one thing I got to do, be very hands-on, right? Take the product, we are building, and I tried almost every product before I built the Zoom. I know all those products really suck. They not work. And then I think maybe this is my own opinion. I tried to talk with a lot of other friends who even tried to convince me not to build another solution like this. I did ask about, hey, how do you like the solution you are using today? None of them told me that they like the solution they are using. Then I know I have a chance. More like you run a restaurant business, right? If you can make your food so delicious and your service is so good, and when customers try to pay, you say, hey, this is free. Or maybe it's just like 50% compared to any other restaurant. No matter how crowded that business, you still can build a great restaurant business. So that's why I think I have a chance, if I can build something customer really enjoy using that.
Why do you think the other products have sucked for so long?
I think is, to be honest, I also do not think that's other product, the company's product, because every product that was built many years ago try to address different problems. Take a Webex, later on GoToMeeting, for example. We try to fix a problem to share your PowerPoint and share the screen, right? And the Skype was built for the peer-to-peer, audio, right? It's kind of audio composition. But today's problem and yesterday the problem is totally different, right? You cannot say you built a solution 20 years ago, that solution is still great, for today's problem, right? Like a BlackBerry used to be great, but today, you cannot use BlackBerry, right? For today's the population, right? Kind of the surf internet to watch YouTube, we cannot use a BlackBerry, right? So that's why the same thing is true for our industry. So video conferencing is going to become a mainstream service. The best solution is you build something from scratch. You cannot tweak your existing systems like Webex I built before. You cannot have a best experience.
Now, this is where I maybe want to nudge on you a little bit, because I'm a what my buddy Eddie Yuan calls a super consumer of Zoom, because A, I use it all the time, and B, I'm an evangelist. So with that said, given I'm that and I'm a category designer, Eric, I really think if you call this stuff a communication software, you're way underrunning your own opportunity. I think, frankly, you're mispositioning yourself. And I say that with love, because I want to see you be a gigantic ass-kicking category king. Believe me, I love it. And so, because my experience as a user is that you actually did some very powerful things to reimagine communication in the modern context, and that by positioning it in a way that is sort of what the old world used to call it. Frankly, I think you do the opposite of most companies. Most companies with their category design, if they're doing it, or with their marketing, if they're not doing category design, they like say this about themselves, but the reality is they deliver this tiny little bit of. You're the opposite, I guess, is what I'm trying to say to you. You do this giant, unbelievable, awesome shit that is highly innovative, and in my opinion, is clearly the minds of people who are trying to redesign a category through a product. And yet you just say, oh yeah, well, communication software.
So you are so right. That's why I say I read your book twice. I think if it's right time now, if we do not think about a category, if we do not have a careful category design, I think probably we just like let's say even if we have a great product, we cannot be like a great company, just an okay good company. That's why it's time now. We focus on execution first, and then along the way we think about what's the category we are going to play, right? It's best time now for us.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for reading Play Bigger twice. And I'm so glad to hear that, because, and I know this may sound corny to you, Eric, but I really do mean it from the bottom of my heart. It crushes me when amazing technology sort of goes nowhere because of a lack of category design. There was an article in TechCrunch in, I want to say October, maybe it was November, sort of towards the end of last year. And the headline said something like, smart watch sales decline. And they're talking about, overall, like how the category's failing. And at the very beginning of the article, it says something like, it's not clear why anybody should buy a smartwatch. And I look at that, and that to me screams the absence of category design. And so, but yet it's a magical, mystical, Dick Tracy, holy shit, I can't even believe it happened in my lifetime kind of a thing. And so if that category doesn't take off, it's going to be a giant bummer. And so you understand my point, yes?
Yes, absolutely right. That's why I say, looking back, I should have probably read your book like 2 to 3 years ago.
It only came out about 9 months ago, so I would have loved it, but it didn't exist.
I know. That's why I say it's a timing, right? So ideally, you should have that book 2 to 3 years ago, and already can help us a lot. After I read your book, I realized, wow, this is something missing here. You're right. That's why I did also give another book to our head of marketing, Janine Pelosi, as well. I told her, please read it twice. It's really important. And another thing I forgot to mention, to deliver happiness to our employees, here we reimburse every book. Every employee you buy for yourself or for your family, we always reimburse that.
That's great.
So if I buy a book for my kid, I don't have a kid, but if I had a kid, so my book budget is essentially unlimited if I'm a Zoom employee.
Exactly. You can buy a book for kids, for a wife, for for anyone you think can help others. Just go buy it.
Is that true? If I want to subscribe to,
Easy.
maybe you want to call them.
Easy. Where are you going?
Okay. I'll stop. My internal monologue was about to go external there for a second.
Those books don't qualify.
So all stupidity aside, what made you decide, you and your team decide that everybody gets free books?
So it boils down to what kind of the employees we wanted to, kind of hire. We wanted to help to grow, right? So we'd like to hire those employees with a self-learning and a self-motivation mentality. We do not hire a lot of very experienced, the employees from other companies. As long as those employees, they really wanted to learn, they really motivated themselves. We like those kind of employees. But one thing is kind of, the book, right? If you always say go online or go to local bookstore to buy a book, guess what? You want to learn something, right? You really motivate yourself. This is more like a level that metaphor, right? It's kind of employees. This is great. Over the weekend you want to buy something, just do it. We always want to encourage you to have a self-motivation, self-learning, mentality. That's why we reverse that.
So great.
The more you talk, Eric, Colin and I keep looking at each other, the more I think, where did this fucking guy come from? Incredible. Colin, you're a big user of the mobile version. If we could just tilt back to the product for a second, maybe we could talk about that a little bit, maybe share some of your experiences.
Yeah, in fact, I wanted to bring that up because just a minute ago, Eric, you touched on mobile being an opportunity that didn't exist before. And I was reflecting in that moment on your product for the iPhone and how incredible it is and how seamless the experience is from desktop to mobile. It's so incredibly seamless that I just have to applaud you for that, because I haven't seen a product that well done translated from desktop to mobile, I don't think ever.
Thank you. Appreciate, because of your usage. That's why our iPhone app is ranked as, I think at this moment, number 4 in the free
store.
Yeah, no kidding, Eric. Holy fuck. Congratulations. That is a gigantic. There are almost, are we coming up on 3 million apps in the App Store now? It's a gigantic, it's well over 2 million. So if you're number 4 in the Apple App Store.
Sorry, in the free business category.
Yeah, no, I understand. No, I understand exactly what you mean. I mean, God only knows how many business apps there are, but I mean, that is a gigantic achievement.
Yeah, that's why you're right. It's, look at the category design, right? So, ahead of any other competitors in this space. Yeah.
So maybe tell us about competition, because clearly there's lots of it and there's more coming, and you have, I would argue, at least one very big one, and you might argue more than one, but one credible big one.
More happiness.
Oh,
he just changed his background.
That's a fall happiness background, it looks like. So
see the smile on his face?
I'm turning red, for fuck's sakes. I'm laughing so much. It's hard to have a serious conversation about competition, Eric, when you keep having these fucking
teleporting. He's teleporting.
But seriously, we never take a competition too seriously, because we really do not focus on competitors. We do focus on our company, the customers. And if you focus on competitors, it's harder for you to win. The only way for you to win is make sure the customers, they are happy. They go with your solution. They do not go with your competitor solution.
So you're saying all the books written about how to compete and all that, it's really very simple. Make your customers more happy and win.
Exactly. Because the customer go with your solution, your competitor, they are going to lose. That's so simple. So
there's a winner and there's a loser. Yeah. So one of the things that you've been extraordinarily successful at is you went from being a coder to a manager and a leader to a true executive who took Webex public. Ultimately, you got acquired by Cisco, and then you became one of the very senior people running a very important business unit at Cisco. Can you sort of take us through a little bit of that?
Yeah, sure. Actually, prior to founding Zoom, I was at Cisco. I was not running a BU. I was just the corporate vice president.
I'm sorry. I thought I saw in your bio. Did I misunderstand? I thought you ran the communications group. Is that not right?
That's not right. I only manage the R&D team, manage the engineer team. I do not manage sales, marketing, and the support team. And essentially just all the R&D engineer team or QA they reported to me. So still like.
But I mean, you're still a very significant executive. How many engineers and how big was your team?
A little bit over 800, and worldwide. And
I mean, there's just not a lot of people in the world that are running 800-person engineering organizations. And if it's not inappropriate, can you tell us, what your R&D investment was every year?
Back then, I think probably I forgot the exact number of a very big team, over 500, all over the world. And I think the team, here and the team offshore, but, kind of is really not easy because so many people, and you got to respect all diversify the background, the culture, and make sure they are. At that time, I did not talk about happiness, that much because it's later on I realized that. And however, it's really not easy because I really wanted to drive a team to work so hard to develop the best solutions, because the bigger company, quite often if you do that and push the team too hard, HR may not like it. So, right. And it's really hard, but that's why most of innovation coming from startup companies, and employees just very happy. You do not need to push anyone. They work so hard every day.
Yeah.
And so
that's great. Thank you for that. Colin and I are also curious to learn about what your financing strategy has been to help fuel the development of Zoom. Would you kind of unpack some of that for us, because you've really done an extraordinary job in capitalizing the company and bringing on some pretty impressive folks.
So the two things actually, even before I started a company, I know that as one thing is, no matter how other company grow the business, I wanted to be cash flow positive as early as possible. Because if you're not a cash flow positive, you never know what's going on. Maybe your business up and down. If you needed money, you may not get the money. Then you have a huge problem. So this is one thing. Really like to be cash flow positive as early as possible. That's one thing. Another thing I learned is because sometimes
that's very old-fashioned of you, Eric.
It is, exactly. That's, however, when I started a company, I'm already 40 years old, so that's okay because I'm already old enough to go to the old-fashioned way to run the business. So, and another thing I learned is when you want to raise money, you may not get it. The best time to get the money from VC is you do not need the money. You do not need the money.
It's so funny because often entrepreneurs will talk to me, early stage entrepreneurs, and they ask about this, and I say, well, you know who the best VC in the world is? And they say, who? And I say, customers.
You're so right. Exactly right. Exactly right. I would say a lot of, probably, especially maybe young, the founders always every day think about how to raise money. I would say every day think about it, make a customer happy. And VC, they're going to give the money to you.
Brilliant. It makes so much sense. You make the customer happy, everything works.
Exactly. Because your customer happy, VC even know it. So. Yeah.
And is this how you attracted? So when did you decide? Maybe walk us through. When did you decide to raise venture capital, and why did you choose the venture partners that you have?
Sure. So after I left Cisco, I got a $3 million seed funding from my friends, most of friends here in the Silicon Valley. Right. That's how we started to get it.
So you just threw a party and said, "Hey, friends, are you in?"
Exactly. That's exactly what had happened. Originally I wanted to raise $2 million. Appreciate for all the friends' support. I got the $3 million.
Remember the part where you were saying I should have written my book 2 years earlier? Why didn't you call me back then 6 years ago, Eric? I mean, come on.
My fault. Next time. I'm so sorry for that.
Please put me on the list for next time.
Yeah. So
you were shooting for $2 million, but you got $3 million.
I got $3 million, and that's how we started. Because when we started, a lot of engineers, right? Because to build a great technology like Zoom you cannot have 1,000 people. We have 45 people to start. And after that, before our product ready, we needed to raise money, right, for the A round. And also, at that time, the product not fully ready. I do not think it's right time to talk with the VCs. And the good news, actually, those angel investors, my friends, plus some like a Qualcomm Ventures, the Jerry Young's, Emmy Cloud Ventures, they all supported me. We raised $6 million. And with 6 million for sure, extra 6 million in addition to the 3 million seed funding, we know we can build the product can be ready. And however, after we closed the Series A, just 3 months later, right, we got a call from the Horizon Ventures. They used to invest in the sky. The Horizon Ventures is based in Hong Kong. They called me, hey, they say, we tried your product for a while. I really like your solution. I know you just closed the Series A, and can we have a talk? And we had a coffee, in Palo Alto. So, with Sonina, she's wonderful. This is great. And just after the coffee, she decided to invest us. That's why 7 months, just 4 months after we closed Series A, we closed the Series B. I did not need the money at that time, right? That's why I say, you got the money. So we closed the Series B and extra money in the bank. And at that time was okay, just the full speed to develop a product. We really do not need the money for a while. Until I think the end of 2014, I guess, probably, yes. Emergency capital also reached out to us because they heard about a lot of companies are using Zoom. We also, again, we did not, want to go outside and raise money. They reached out to us and look at our, the financial data plus some customer feedback. They decided to invest. And we got another 30 million and a Series C led by emergency capital. And last year, and Sequoia Capital, they are the best we see in the world. They also know a lot of their portfolio companies or customers are using Zoom, and that's why they got a very positive feedback. And they also reach out to us because I don't want to miss that. Because even if you do not need the money, our last round of seed round of money, 30 million still in the bank. Before we talk with Sequoia Capital.
So hold on, I hate to interrupt you, Eric, but I want to make sure I understand. So you had not. Before you raised the Sequoia round, the emergence round, what round was the emergence round?
The 30 million, I think that's end of 2014.
Okay, and that was 30 million.
Yeah.
And so you had not touched any of that money?
We did not touch. The money is still in the bank even today.
Even today, yeah, I bet it is. And then the folks at Sequoia reached out to you, is that right?
Yes. We always keep a good relationship with Sequoia. Also keep them posted because I really like Sequoia. So.
And so when you raised, how big was the Sequoia round?
100 million. And
so when you raised the 100 million from Sequoia, you hadn't touched the 30 million. What made you decide to A, do the round, and B, do it at that level?
I think, first of all, Sequoia is probably the best VC, for a long time. It's kind of any company or any VC maintain that, track record for many years. For sure, something different. I also want to learn how they did that, right? It's kind of always admire their success. And also, I'm also very paranoid, right? As I mentioned, maybe down the road we really need the money, to do a lot of other things. At that time, try to raise money, you may not get it, right? If you get the money, leave it there, and whenever you have something very ambitious, you can immediately, start working on that, right? Otherwise, you still, to spend the time to raise money. And plus, our new board member also came from Sequoia. The car is Chimbak. He's a great guy. He's a great leader. Build a VMware business from 60 million to 6 billion. Right? It's almost, yeah. I talked with some friends I know. Everybody told me that. It's no brainer. He's a world-class leader. Right? So I talked with him. I really like him. I think if look at everything, I feel like even if you do not need the money, this is the best thing to do, to work together with Sequoia. Yeah.
Well, incredible. And let me, wait a minute. Sorry, I was on mute. Incredible, Eric. Absolutely. Congratulations. You've done a world-class job. The people you've surrounded yourself speak for themselves. And the interesting thing I hear in what you're saying is, in the beginning, try to raise your friends and family around. You got that done. After that, you were driving to cash flow positive and building your product and building your business. And they kind of came to you because people saw you were doing something legendary. What you were up to spoke to itself. Is that what we're hearing?
It's sort of like that, yes, because we really want to be cash flow positive first, and then make sure customer happy, right? Again, if you make a customer happy, the Silicon Valley is not that big, right? Everybody is connected to each other, right? So they know those customers, which solution they're using today, and they keep hearing about Zoom, and then they reach out to us. So
extraordinary. Now, Eric, as you look forward, it's been publicly reported, and if you don't want to talk about it, then you just tell us. But it's been publicly reported that your valuation is over $1 billion now, and you've raised all this money, and it's sort of become in vogue over the last almost decade for legendary, high growth, high category potential companies with amazing technology. All of those things are true for you to not go public and sort of say, screw the public markets and we're going to stay private forever. And so going public is not as in vogue today as it was 10, 15, 20 years ago. What are your thoughts on that?
I think we want to go public, not like other companies want to stay in private. But however, we want to make sure we are ready, because investors, they trusted us, invest so much money. We really want to give them a good return, right? If you think time is ready for us to give them a great return, we will go public. Otherwise, if you keep it private for too long, I do not think that's good for the investors, for employees, for your business. However, we want to make sure we are fully ready, and then we go public.
The more you talk, Eric, the more Colin and I just look at each other, and the more I go, where did this guy come from? The thing that I have found to be a tragedy with a lot of these quote unquote unicorn companies north of $1 billion in private valuations who refuse to go public is exactly what you just said. Because even if you don't need the money, those investors bet on you. And I think you said the more important one as well, which is employees, because I think a lot of entrepreneurs who have refused to go public when they could, I'm going to go so far as to say they're screwing their employees, because if I've worked for your company for 5 or 6 years and I'm fully vested, that is to say, my first 4 years are vested. Today, it's very hard to sell on the private market. Today, most companies, your stock options expire within 30 or 90 days of leaving. And if you didn't buy your options in the beginning, most, normal people can't afford to buy them. And so I think all that is to say, I think a lot of employees get screwed because they don't realize they can't take their stock options when they leave, even if somebody told them in the beginning. And if there's no market for their stock, the truth is they took less pay. They could have gone to work at, your old employer, Cisco or Hewlett Packard or Google or Microsoft or I don't know where, and gotten a lot more cash. And so they're betting on the dream. And so I guess my point is, I find it so fucking refreshing, Eric, to hear you say that part of your mission at Zoom is also to take care of your employees and your investors because they bet on the company. How did you come to that mindset?
It's, maybe let me take a step back. Like the VCs who invested us. I never view the money they give us in the money. I do not think that's 100 million or 30 million. Every dollar, that's a trust, right? They give us money for us, give us a trust. We got to work hard to make sure not to let them down, right? Employees they did the same thing. They put their many years of hard work, sacrifice their personal life to join you. If you do not think about, from their perspective, do not care about them, even if yourself could be very successful, I think that does not matter. You got to you got to make sure others happy, and then you'll be happy. If my investor very happy, our employee happy, even if I did not make any money, I still feel very happy.
Eric, I'd like to talk about the happiness factor here for a moment. And I'm really curious, you mentioned that it wasn't always such a significant part of your dialogue or your mission. I'm wondering, when did the happiness factor become such an integral part of your mission?
I think probably, my personal story. And I remember right before I left Cisco, this is great company, don't get me wrong. However, every day when I woke up, I realized, I ask myself, do I feel happy or not? I think I do not feel happy. And then a second question is, why do I need to go to office? I can work at home and just join some meeting, that's it. And also, I also found that engineers, sometimes when they are happy, I see the quality is good. If they're not happy, the code is very buggy. I learned before I started a company, I know actually keep an engineer happy, your code quality is good. But after I started a company, after I hired a sales team, is along the way, I also learned if you make the sales team happy, they also can deliver happiness to customers, your revenue will be up as well. So essentially, that is our happiness can be applied to every department, every employee. That's kind of how I learned is along the way. It's not something I knew several years ago.
I think you need to write a manual on creating the chief happiness officer for your company.
Yeah, and the thing is, Eric, hearing you say that, it would be one thing if you were the chief executive of a mature company that was growing at 5% a year or 25% a year. And, there's some companies who 25% a year would be an extraordinarily positive thing. You're the chief executive of a company that is growing in excess of 200% a year against some giant competitors like Google and Cisco and Microsoft and Hewlett Packard and many others. So it's one thing coming out of, the context of who's doing the speaking really matters. And so this is why every time you say stuff like that, I look at Colin and I just raise my hands and go, where did this fucking guy, unbelievable. And so,
thank you.
As you think to the future, both for yourself, Eric, and for Zoom, tell us what you see in the future and what you're excited about.
I would say in the future, everybody they can be connected very well with Zoom, and with video on, they feel like no matter where you are, no matter what kind of device you are using, you always can connect with others with video conferencing solution like Zoom. And because today the social networking so popular, I feel like you feel very lonely because you never meet with a friend anymore, right? With the Zoom, with video conferencing, even if you do not meet, you still feel like you're in the same conference room. I think it makes the world better, to connect the people together all over the world.
And happier.
Yes, exactly. Yes. Imagine today's call, we do not turn on the video. We just talk over the phone. I'm pretty sure, I already think about something else. I already multitasking, I already do so many things, not happy, right? I also cannot enjoy the virtual background either. So.
And we don't get to see your beautiful teleportation backgrounds.
Exactly.
Well, and actually, as much as I love your backgrounds, and I really love your backgrounds, and I don't mean this to sound overly corny, but the smile on your face, you're a handsome guy anyway, and you just have this. And where did this dumb expression come from? Shit-eating grin. If you were eating shit, you wouldn't have a grin. I don't know why we say that's a shit-eating grin. Makes no fucking sense. But anyway, you have an awesome smile is I guess what I'm trying to say to you, Eric.
Thank you. Appreciate yeah.
And Eric, as we complete our dialogue today, is there anything else you'd like to share with Colin and I?
I'm a huge fan for your book. I suppose, if you have a book published earlier, will help more people like me. And for every entrepreneur, make sure you have a copy of your book. I really enjoy reading that. Thank you.
Eric, thank you is not the right response for me for you to say that. In a lot of ways, there are parallels between writing a book and doing a startup, because in our case, it took about 2 years. And so we didn't have a product in the market for 2 years. So it's like you're working on an engineering project and you're building software, at least in that sense. And, in our case, the whole time we're working on it, we're getting great feedback from our agent and our publisher, who are both, extraordinary people in that world. And so that was very positive. But the problem becomes they almost start feeling like your mom when you're 8 telling you you look great or whatever. Like it. And so I guess my point is, I'll speak for myself. I think it was true for Dave, Al, and Kevin, but I'll speak for myself. I tried to pour the better part of 30 years of my life into those 270 pages. And the reason I did, and I know this is absolutely true for the other guys, is we were hopeful that one day an extraordinarily accomplished entrepreneur who has been part of now 2 category kings, and I think there's a very good chance you're going to have a 3rd one here, my friend. The fact that you would say that to me, I just want you to know what it means to me, because that was our hope, that maybe one day it would make a difference for entrepreneurs like you. And to hear that from you, who's clearly a world-class entrepreneur, thank you from the bottom of my heart, Eric.
It already made a huge difference. Otherwise, I will not read it twice. The book really plays a big role for me to really think about what we are doing today. Seriously. Otherwise, we still focus on execution. I never thought about, okay, not only to focus on execution, but always to think about the king of the category, right? It's something new. I don't know it. That's why I appreciate, your book, Play Bigger. It's every entrepreneur, they got to have a book, everyone.
Well, I can't even tell you what it means to me, buddy, to hear you say that. And if we are just a micro fraction of a contribution to you and your wonderful colleagues at Zoom, I think you were probably going to be pretty freaking successful without us. But if we help just a little bit in increasing your potential and most importantly, I think your product is going to make a giant difference in the world. And it does to Colin and I every day. And so you're doing something incredibly important, because communication matters. The better our communication, the better our world. And you're right. When we can see each other, it's completely different. And so you are a legendary entrepreneur, my friend.
Thank you, Colin. Thank you, Chris. I really appreciate for your support. I really enjoyed talking with you. And I feel like, wow, you're right. More like we are sitting together in the one conference room over the weekend. And I learned a lot from you too. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. And I would offer 2 things in completion, Eric, other than our thanks for joining us today. Number 1, actually 3, it's always 3 things. Number 1, if you ever want to chat on category design for Zoom, you know how to get a hold of me. So if I can help in any way. Number 2, you've been incredibly, open and generous, and we've had an extraordinary conversation. And I want to thank you for that, and thank you for your incredible product. And hey, what do we know for sure, Colin, about this discussion?
Eric? It's time.
Yeah, it's time to put the puck in the net. But Eric, I think that this discussion is going to make tens of thousands and maybe even more than that over a little bit of time here of people very happy. So we're going to let you get back to your job of making people happy, but I want you to know you're going to make many thousands of people happy by your contribution with us today on Legends and Losers.
Thank you, Chris and Colin. I love you too so much. Appreciate
you. We love you too, Eric.
Bless you and be legendary, Eric. Now, Colin, the more people who hear that conversation, the more people are going to be blown away. And he's going to change the way a lot of founders and CEOs, and he changed the way I think about building companies. Don't you think?
This is one of the most enlightening conversations I've ever had with a founder. It was unbelievable.
And he was so honest.
And happy.
Way happy. And
I was so inspired by his dedication to happiness from the top down.
Well, and the thing about this conversation that's the most remarkable to me is, let's pretend for a second that Eric wasn't the CEO of one of the fastest growing billion-dollar valuation companies in Silicon Valley. Let's pretend he was the owner of Eric's lawn mowing service in Santa Cruz, California, and he had 12 employees. This would have been this would have been a great discussion, right? And it would have been like, oh yeah, Eric, the lawnmower, and he's like,
the happy lawnmower.
The happy lawnmower, and he just
everyone's happy, right?
Right, and you think, wow, what a great philosophy, and don't you want to be like the happy lawnmower?
Yeah.
And I would have thought, oh, that was a bunch of really good, happy horse shit, and we learned something. But there would have been in the back of your mind, well, that's just Eric the lawnmower. Well, that's not Eric the fucking lawnmower. That's Eric running one of the fastest growing software companies in Silicon Valley. And as a daily, I hope we weren't overly laudatory, but I'm a daily Zoom user. You're a daily Zoom user. It's incredible, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I mean, I touched on this during the call. It was how incredible the product is, and not just the desktop, but the mobile as well. It's flawless, and
Flawless.
I can't wait to get some green screen backdrop action going here, so we can kind of mix it
Yeah,
up.
I try to explain to people like Zoom is sort of like if Webex and Skype and FaceTime had a like awesome baby.
Yeah, and it's not just the conferencing, but it's the screen sharing, right? And then to top it off, it's the remote control, so I can take over my mom's computer on tech support calls if she needs help. I
I know.
always
And
have to
how many
ask her
times
what.
have you taken over for me and fixed my
Well,
computer?
I wasn't gonna throw you under the bus on that.
Well, you don't have to throw me under the bus. It's just how it is. All right. Well, thank you, Eric. And if you like this episode, check out our episode with Adam Honig, the founder and CEO of Spiro.
You like when I do that?
I do. I think it's
Kinda
fun.
cool, right?
The platform for salespeople who like to make money.
Money.
Please subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, and/or YouTube. And remember,
This podcast is not free. It costs you 2 minutes to give us a legendary review.
you can find us on Facebook.com/groups/legends and losers.
And on the Twitter at Legends Losers.
We always love to get your emails. That's why our email address is
blackhole@legendsandlosers.com.
We'd like to thank Equity Directory, connecting startups to the talent and resources they need to build a legendary business.
HarperCollins' best-selling book, Play Bigger, How Pirates, Dreamers, and Innovators Create and Dominate Markets.
Our good friends at onelifefullylived.org, the nonprofit helping you to dream, plan, and live your best life.
Chris Brogan's smash hit podcast, The Owner's Mind.
Our dear friends at Verve Coffee Roasters in Santa Cruz, California.
Yeah, Verve.
Yummy coffee.
Fathom, digital marketing that drives revenue at fathomdelivers.com.
The legendary podcast Entrepreneur on Fire with John Lee Dumas.
Yeah. Habitat for Humanity, building new futures.
Las Vegas. What happens in Las Vegas might just wreck your entire life. And a spectacular catastrophe, the amazing new book from our friend and guest, Dushka Zapata. Today's information is provided to you solely for informational purposes.
This oddcast is the sole property of the Legends and Losers Oddcast Network, and please share the shit out of it.
All rights disturbed. This oddcast was produced in a studio that contains
nuts. Teach kids math.
Support your local IPA.
In the event of 4-hour...
You gonna say it?
In the event of a 4-hour erection, call someone you like.
Yeah. Legends and Losers makes listeners more money.
Do not piss on my foot and tell me it's raining.
Introduce two people you love to two podcasts you love. This oddcast really ties the room together. And Colin, who do we need to apologize to?
Our sincerest apologies to Oscar Munoz, CEO of United Airlines. Sorry, Oscar.
Sorry, Oscar. We ran out of time for you. That's it. Be legendary, our good friend.